You're trespassing on my land.
Your land, this is my ranch!
You're trespassing on my land. The ranch has been rezoned, declared abandoned, leased out, cleaned up for better neighbors. The chain rattled as I forced the gate open, and H.O.A., Karen in her navy blazer, stepped forward like she owned the dust under my boots. You're trespassing, she snapped, shoving papers inches from my face. Security, remove him. Behind her, excavators were already digging into my father's pasture. Workers didn't stop. She didn't blink. And just like that, welcome back to Ruthless H.O.A. Tales, where H.O.A. Karens think they own the world until they don't. If you're new here, buckle up, because this one hit different. The guard grabbed my arm. Step aside or be arrested. H.O.A. Karen tilted her head slightly and said it loud enough for the workers to hear. People like you never show up on time to care for property. The insult burned hotter than the sun overhead. She twisted my last name like it didn't belong on the land my father bled for. She told the contractors to keep digging, told security I was aggressive, told everyone the ranch had been rescued from neglect. But here's what she didn't know. This ranch wasn't abandoned. It was inherited, free and clear, mine. The lawyer had called months ago. My father was gone. The land was in trust. When I finally drove out here, the gate had been chained, new H.O.A. signs nailed crooked, a letter shoved under the latch claiming the ranch was undesirable, unmaintained, a burden on the neighborhood. And at the first H.O.A. meeting, H.O.A. Karen spoke slow and sweet. Standards matter. Some owners don't understand upkeep. Are you planning to modernize or let animals rot? The room laughed. Fees appeared overnight. Fines stacked weekly. Security blocked access to my own gate. Each visit got worse. She corrected how I pronounced my own last name, asked if I could read the bylaws, told neighbors I was squatting on land I hadn't earned. Today, contractors rolled in without notice, fencing sliced through pasture, lease signs posted like trophies. And when I stepped between the machines and the soil, H.O.A. Karen smiled like she'd already won. You should be grateful, she whispered. We made it useful. The excavator lurched forward. Dust rose. Security tightened their grip, and for a moment, grief nearly broke me. But I remembered something my father used to say. Silence isn't weakness, it's timing. And right then, county trucks turned onto the dirt road. Who authorized this? County trucks don't rush. They roll in slow. Boots hit gravel, clipboards tucked under arms, calm faces that don't react to noise. H.O.A. Karen switched tones instantly. She walked toward them, smiling like a host greeting VIP guests. So glad you're here, she said sweetly. We've been cleaning up an abandoned agricultural eyesore. The owner has been unresponsive for months. Unresponsive. I was standing 10 feet away. She kept talking over me, calling me emotional, saying I had been warned repeatedly, saying the H.O.A. had authority over this land now. The excavator idled behind us. Security still hovered close. One inspector looked at the torn fencing. Another stared at the fresh lease sign posted near the barn. Then one question cut through everything. Who authorized agricultural rezoning? Silence. Just for a second. H.O.A. Karen jumped in quickly. The H.O.A. handled everything. We have jurisdiction. The ranch was declared abandoned under community preservation standards. She said it confidently, like she'd practiced it. A developer standing beside her nodded with folded arms, already picturing profit. I stayed quiet. My father always said timing mattered more than volume. The inspector asked again. County approval number, she blinked, then deflected. It was processed internally. H.O.A. authority extends. Internally? He repeated. That word landed heavy. Security shifted their stance. Neighbors who had gathered began whispering. Another inspector walked toward me. Are you the deed holder? Yes. Original documents? H.O.A. Karen laughed lightly. He won't have them. We've been trying to reach him for months. I opened my truck door, pulled out a folder. Trust documents, original title, grazing permits, county agricultural designation, recorded inheritance transfer, stamped, filed, legal. I handed them over without a word. For the first time since this started, H.O.A. Karen's smile faltered, just slightly. One inspector stepped aside to make a call. Another measured fence lines with visible concern. The developer's posture changed, less confident, more cautious. H.O.A. Karen leaned close to me and whispered, None of this matters. People like you always lose in the end. That's when I knew. This was never about property maintenance. This was about control. The inspector returned, voice steady. Stop all work immediately. The excavator shut down. Engines went quiet. Dust settled slowly, and suddenly, the only sound left was the wind moving through pasture grass my father once stood in. HOA. Karen tried to regain control. This is a misunderstanding, she insisted. We acted within our rights. The inspector didn't look at her. He looked at the map, then at the trust documents, then back at her, and said, "The HOA has no listed jurisdiction over this parcel." The air shifted, subtle, but real. For the first time, HOA, Karen wasn't directing the scene. She was reacting to it, and things were about to get worse. The lease was illegal. The inspector didn't raise his voice. He didn't need to. He flipped through the documents slowly while HOA Karen kept talking. Fast now. It was neglected. It lowered property values. We acted in the community's best interest. The inspector looked up. "Ma'am, this land is held in an agricultural family trust. It cannot be rezoned by an HOA vote. Only the county can authorize that." The developer beside her stopped nodding. The inspector continued, "And there is no county record of rezoning." Silence. Heavy. Public. HOA. Karen straightened her blazer. There must be a clerical delay. The second inspector stepped forward, holding the lease paperwork that had been stapled to my fence. "Who drafted this lease?" The developer answered before she could. "Our firm did, based on the HOA's authorization." The inspector turned the page. "There is no legal authority cited here." That's when it cracked. Not loudly, not dramatically, just enough. HOA, Karen's confidence slipped into irritation. "This property was abandoned," she snapped. "He wasn't maintaining it. We have standards." The inspector didn't flinch. Absence does not equal abandonment. Neighbors were no longer whispering. They were watching, really watching. Security had stepped back. The inspector held up the trust transfer date. Ownership transferred legally months ago. Taxes are paid. Permits active. Grazing rights intact. Then he looked directly at her. "On what basis did the HOA declare this abandoned?" She opened her mouth, closed it, opened it again. "This community cannot afford to let properties decay." The inspector's voice hardened. "You do not have seizure authority." That word landed. Seizure. The developer slowly stepped away from her. The inspector motioned toward the torn fencing. "All work is to remain halted pending investigation." HOA Karen's tone sharpened. "This is harassment. The HOA protects this neighborhood." The inspector responded calmly. "The HOA has overstepped." Then came the sentence that changed everything. "The lease is void. The rezoning claim is invalid, and this matter will be referred for review of unlawful property interference." Her face drained. The clipboard in her hand trembled slightly. Neighbors who once laughed at meetings now stared at her like they were seeing someone new. Not a leader, not a protector, but someone who had gambled with land that wasn't hers. She leaned toward me one last time. "This isn't over." But the ground had already shifted. County trucks idled, security stepped completely away, and the excavator operator climbed down from his machine. For the first time since my father died, the ranch felt still again. And HOA. Karen no longer looked powerful. She looked exposed. The inspector didn't rush. He stood in front of everyone, neighbors, contractors, security, the developer, and spoke clearly. The HOA acted outside its jurisdiction. The attempted rezoning is invalid. The lease is void. All work conducted here was unauthorized. HOA, Karen tried to interrupt. "This is temporary. We'll appeal." The inspector raised his hand. "You may address that with the county during formal review. For now, operations stop." Then came the part she didn't expect. "We are opening an investigation into unlawful seizure attempts and possible personal enrichment tied to this lease." Personal enrichment. The developer took a full step back from her. Security removed their hands from their belts. The power dynamic flipped in real time. One inspector began reading violations: unauthorized land interference, improper boundary enforcement, false abandonment declaration, illegal rezoning representation. Each one landed heavier than the last. Her face went pale. The clipboard slipped from her hand into the dirt. Machines powered down completely. Chains were cut from my gate. And for the first time since this started, no one was standing between me and my father's land. I walked forward slowly, unlocked the gate myself. The metal creaked open, loud enough to echo. Not dramatic, just final. HOA, Karen tried one last time. "This isn't over," she said, voice thinner now. But it was, because authority built on arrogance collapses fast when exposed to truth. The county trucks pulled away with her name logged in a report instead of printed on HOA letterhead. The developer left without shaking her hand. Neighbors avoided her eyes, and I stood there in the dust, breathing something I hadn't felt since my father passed. Peace. Not victory, not revenge. Peace. Because the ranch wasn't just land, it was legacy. And legacy doesn't bow to paperwork written in bad faith. Racism always overplays its hand. Control always assumes silence means weakness. But truth doesn't shout. It stands. If you believe stories like this need to be told, like this video, subscribe to Ruthless HOA Tales, share this with someone who believes in protecting what's theirs. And tell me in the comments, have you ever dealt with an HOA, Karen, who thought she owned more than she did? Because around here, we don't just tell stories, we expose them.